What's dangerous is when the universe pick you and you put on the magic glasses. There's rules that go with them. You can never take them off. You never see things as they're supposed to be. You see things as they are. And you can never force nobody else to wear them.
Things I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight are wearing me out. Well, maybe tomorrow the world will wake and get it right, but I have my doubts, yeah. During the day, well, I design machines of war that scream through the sky. 'Cause I, for one, I like to go to bed free at night under these stars and stripes. And I have my doubts that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts, but they'll wind you up and pull the cord until you're spun right out, and I don't understand. Roll the dice and raise the price to feed the machine's mouth. Call it the progress of man. And I have my doubts that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts. And I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. I have my doubts, so I'll drink my stuff and raise some hell and shoot my guns to the end of my time. You can have the booze and go to hell and take the guns, but I know they won't be mine. Messed up and out of touch, let's text someone who's in the other room. So don't wonder why we don't say hi or know anyone. I might as well move to the moon. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. Well, the things I think while I lie awake and contemplate at night are wearing me out.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am so glad that we're on our Friday. Why? Because I want more time to paint. I spent all frickin' day in Adobe Substance Painter painting little bitty tiny parts, and it looks so awesome. Though I can't wait till I can post it up on the flightsim.to website for others to be able to download. It's going to be one heck of an awesome looking. I can't call it an aircraft because it's the Dune Ornithopter. So anyway, got some local news today. We've had a bit of a shake-up with our trash. So I'll give a little quick backstory here. We had a particular trash company, and the city was contracted with them, and I guess the owner of that decided to sell the company. So he sold it to another company. Well, this other company has quite a different way of doing things. However, because they were fulfilling the contract from the prior company, nothing had changed immediately. Well, apparently, the contract came due, and we were all informed, it's been some weeks ago, when we were first informed about some changes that were going to be made. And there are some pretty drastic changes across the board. They really are. I mean, it's crazy. Now they provide us with these 95-gallon bins. We have one for recycle, one for trash. Well, Jen and I only have a 13-gallon kitchen trash bag of trash a week and a little bit of recycle. So it would take, if we waited that long, it would take 6 months for us to fill up that 95-gallon recycle bin. We could probably get away with about every 3 months taking the trash out to the curb, which I'm not going to do. It'll go out every week. But, that's one thing for Jen and I, because it's just us and, of course, Blue. But for others in town that have families, some even large families, that same 95-gallon bin's just not going to be enough. Well, there's a whole lot of nonsensical stuff that has changed with this new company. Don't know how long they're going to be there. I honestly don't expect that the contract will get renewed with that company because I have a feeling that enough people in town are going to raise hell. And it is what it is. So I took the opportunity today. We got our 95-gallon bins today. And I took the liberty of making a little promotional video on it, and so I'm gonna show you that little promotional video real quick. It's 27 seconds long. So I really hope you enjoy the music that I picked out for this incredible visual. So here you go. I couldn't resist that. So, I mean, it would have been one thing if they just ran him up, but when old boy rolled his ankle or whatever it was he did, it had to get Benny Hilled. So, anyway, that's our new trash receptacles. Other than that, there is quite a bit of news I've got to report. It's not good at all. Before I get to the news about what happened in Israel, what happened in Gaza, as well as, it's not looking good as far as Russia's concerned. It's really not. And you guys should know by now, I don't fearmonger stuff. I don't, I don't act all crazy with every little bitty thing like so many others do. It's time we are concerned. So, there's enough that came out in the past 24 hours that, yeah, we need to be concerned. Howdy, Montana Life. There was, and I want to mention this before we get started, there was unfortunately, an officer killed in line of duty today, Independence, Missouri, and a process server, a court employee. Apparently, the court employee went to go serve an eviction. The court employee came under fire, unfortunately lost his life. And, of course, there was a law enforcement response. And I believe it was one of the responding officers that lost his life as well. And then either 2 or 3 other officers are injured. Only one suspect is in custody with, they just say, minor injuries. So we don't know anything more than that. It's still kind of a pretty fresh situation. And so if you're so inclined, maybe throw some thoughts and prayers or that direction if you're so inclined. So anywho, this is insane what is going on with Israel. I guess we'll hop right into it. I'm just going to roll through it tonight the best I can. I've got, 9 tabs open. So, and most of them dealing with the same subject. However, this first one is not. So let's go ahead and hop in. I don't think I've got anything else really to add. I spent an entire day working on one part of the aircraft, one file I should say. There's tons and tons of tiny little parts. But it looks so awesome. There's like the landing lights on the front, and I actually made those like they appear glass. They look like they're glass. They're really cool. So anywho, you switched over here. 100 plus killed as Israeli troops open fire at hungry crowd in Gaza, says Hamas. So, and I know it says Hamas, but this absolutely did happen. There's tons of video and stuff that was taken. Well, I can't say tons, but there was video that was taken. Plenty of images. It's not good. It says here at least 104 Palestinians have been killed and another 750 wounded at an aid distribution point west of Gaza City in what the local health ministry spokesperson, Ashaf al-Qidra, described as an unprovoked Israeli attack on the civilians waiting for a delivery on Thursday. Video from the scene of the massacre posted to social media showed people fleeing and taking cover while victims were being taken to hospital by any means available, including donkey carts as roads to the site had been destroyed. However, it was impossible to confirm from the video what had triggered the deadly chaos. The Israeli Defense Forces officially acknowledged dozens of injuries and casualties among the crowd, but blamed the victims, claiming they were pushing and trampling at the site of the aid trucks. IDF spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari claimed only a few warning shots were fired to disperse the crowd of looters, is what they're saying. An Israeli military source not authorized to speak with the press admitted his colleagues fired at the crowd, but blamed the victims for that as well. The crowd approached the forces in a manner which posed a threat to the troops, the source told AFP. However, witnesses' stories appeared incompatible with the suggestion that soldiers who fired on the crowd had done so out of fear. IDF troops allegedly opened fire twice, waiting until the first aid seekers had returned to the truck from hiding to shoot them again, according to Kamal Abdul Nawal, who told reporters from his bed in Al-Shifa Hospital that he was shot in the leg and then run over as the truck sped away from the scene. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas condemned the ugly massacre conducted by the Israeli occupation army this morning against the people who waited for the aid trucks, according to his office. Hamas also condemned the incident, which it called unprecedented in the history of war crimes, as part of Israel's war of starvation against the people of Gaza. The attack could jeopardize ceasefire talks still underway between the Palestinian militants and the Israeli government to return Israeli hostages who remain in Gaza. Hamas warned Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who declared that their return was his utmost priority. Following the deadly Hamas raid on October 7, in which over 1,200 people were killed, Israel has killed nearly 30,000 Palestinians in Gaza, according to the enclave's health ministry. While Israel was told by the International Court of Justice to increase and facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aid so as to avoid committing genocide against the Palestinian people, Israel has been accused by the UN and other aid groups of violating that order. So, who knows what is going to come of this? As far as I could see, there is actually a fair amount of video that's not really making its rounds, but it's clearly video from the same incident, including video that showed, to be quite honest, that the Palestinians are telling the truth. So that's not going to be good. Again, a lot of that video you're not seeing so much on the social media and stuff like that. Of course, I can't play it here because of YouTube, but insanity. Absolutely insanity. And it goes along with what I've been saying the entire time. So, we'll see what happens, but that is certainly not a good look. So the other issue, the one that could wind up directly involving us, is the situation going on with Russia. I feel like a back and forth. I almost feel bipolar sometimes when it comes to reporting on this, because at times it feels like things are pretty tense, and other times it feels pretty relaxed. Right now it feels probably the most tense since all of this started. There is definitely things being said by different NATO members that are not copacetic with other NATO members. Now, what happens if those NATO members decide to themselves, say, put boots on the ground? I don't know. I would imagine, to be real honest, I think, say, France puts boots on the ground. There's other countries, I think Estonia, maybe. Let's say they join in. I don't necessarily think that Russia is going to drag the entirety of NATO into it. But I do think Russia will strike back. I think they'll strike back at France or whoever, Estonia, whoever it is that's involved in it. So that's something we certainly need to keep an eye on, because even then, I understand Article 5 and all of that. It's really hard to make calls on where I could see this going. I don't think that Putin is looking for a big war. I don't. And I think that Putin would have sat down at the negotiation table a long, long time ago. In fact, he's tried to on multiple occasions. And largely the United States has not let Ukraine do so. I don't know. I see it, and to me it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because if it were me, I don't think I would be given too much of a damn what the United States had to say. Not if it was, my men and women of my country dying. I think that I would make my own decisions, but there again, I don't have all kinds of backdoor deals going on with the Biden family either. So, I'm sure that makes a difference. Got this here. Macron stands by remarks on NATO troops in Ukraine. French President Emmanuel, here I am trying to put words together again, names together. Emmanuel Macron on Thursday stood by his controversial remarks on Monday about the prospects of deploying troops to Ukraine, which have caused uproar among some NATO members, and has insisted his words were well thought out. Speaking to reporters on the sidelines of a visit to inspect the 2024 Olympics Village near Paris, Macron refused to backtrack on his statements despite a flurry of criticism from some fellow members of the U.S.-led bloc. These are sufficiently serious issues. Every one of the words that I say on this issue is weighed, thought through, and measured, Macron claimed. The French president triggered the political furor on... would that be pronounced furor? On Monday, while speaking to reporters after hosting a meeting of European leaders in Paris, Macron insisted that the West should stop at nothing to prevent Russia from getting the upper hand in the conflict, saying the deployment of troops by NATO and other Western countries to Ukraine could not be ruled out. My issue is how he's throwing all of NATO into it. There is no consensus today to send, in an official manner, troops on the ground, he said. In terms of dynamics, we cannot exclude anything. We will do everything necessary to prevent Russia from winning this war. And this is a statement that it's beyond me, because really, unless we do, and I say we, unless NATO does put boots on the ground, and even if NATO puts boots on the ground, it's not going to be a walk in the park. And if NATO puts boots on the ground, you can damn well bet that China's going to put boots on the ground. North Korea's going to put boots on the ground. It's not going to look good. Not at all. It says this statement, the statement prompted a wave of denial from NATO members, with multiple major members of the bloc, including the US, the UK, and Germany, insisting they harbor no such plans. Some lesser members of the bloc, however, namely Estonia and Lithuania, appeared to back Macron, suggesting that sending troops to Ukraine should not be ruled out. We shouldn't be afraid of our own power. Russia is saying this or that step is escalation, but defense is not escalation, the Prime Minister of Estonia, Kaja Kallas, told Sky on Wednesday. I'm saying we should have all options on the table. What more can we do in order to really help Ukraine win? That's just it. Sending them weapons, it doesn't matter how many weapons, how much money that you send them. They're not going to win this conflict. I said this from the beginning. It was nonsensical to think that Ukraine could take on Russia. Just absolutely nonsensical. I mean, jeez, that's like the kindergartner picking on a high school kid, you know? This is what Estonia has to say. Estonia is not afraid of Russia and thinks sending NATO ground troops to Ukraine ought to be under consideration, Prime Minister Kaja Kallas told Sky News in an interview aired on Wednesday. So far, only Estonia and Lithuania have expressed any enthusiasm for the idea of escalating NATO support to Kiev beyond deliveries of weapons, ammunition, and money. We shouldn't be afraid of our own power. Oh, well, I already said that quote. And then this goes into the back. Let me see. On Tuesday, Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielis Landsbergis urged NATO to think outside the box. Meanwhile, the country's ambassador to Sweden, Linus Likavikas, yeah, I can't do that one, said the bloc would neutralize the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad if Moscow dares to challenge NATO. Kallas echoed those statements to Sky, arguing that Russia wants to intimidate us and make the West refrain from the decisions that we would otherwise make to be advocates for supporting Ukraine, the Western unity, everything that really annoys them a great deal. They want us to be afraid, and the only response is that we are not afraid. We act on what is right, she told the UK outlet. Estonia has a force of about 4,200 active duty troops, which can theoretically be expanded into a wartime army of 43,000. Ukraine suffered 125,000 casualties during the 6 months of its counteroffensive in 2023, according to Russian estimates. Government in Kiev has downplayed its losses, but President Vladimir Zelensky said in December that 500,000 more troops were needed at the front. The U.S. and its allies have sent over $200 billion worth of financial, military, and material aid to the Ukrainian government since the conflict with Russia escalated in February 2022, vowing to inflict a strategic defeat on Moscow while insisting they are not actually a party to the hostilities. Kiev has demanded ever more money, weapons and ammunition, from anti-tank missiles to artillery, rocket launchers, air defense systems, tanks, and most recently advanced fighter jets. Russia has drawn a red line at the deployment of F-16 fighters, as they can be armed with nuclear bombs. NATO has persistently ignored Moscow's previous warnings about the risk of a direct confrontation, however. Whole lot of reading. I need coffee. All right. Although I didn't mention Finland and the other countries a while ago, they are speaking up as well. They are saying Ukraine is free to use the weapons it has received from Finland however it sees fit, including for attacks on Russian territory, senior officials in the NATO member state said on Thursday, which that is also another red line. Unlike larger countries, which have placed restrictions on the use of long-range weaponry provided to Kiev, Finland does not envision any limitations, Defense Minister Antti Hakakanen has stated. Hakkanen maybe. Or Hakakanen, however you want to say it's fine with me. These larger countries, which have, among other things, provided these long-range missile systems, of course, they have also had a say in how they could be used, Hakkanen told public broadcaster. Now, how in the hell do you say YLE? I can't even do it. I'll spit all over the mic. The chair of the Finnish Parliament's Defense Committee, Jukka Kopra, what is up with these names, confirmed to YLE that Helsinki has not set such restrictions, and Ukraine has the right to use these weapons against military targets also on Russian soil. The remarks echo statements by fellow NATO member Estonia. Speaking to Lee on Wednesday, the future commander of the Estonian Defense Forces, Andris Merilo, suggested it was a mistake to limit Kiev's use of Western-supplied weaponry to territory that Ukraine claims as its own. The deputy head of the Russian State Duma Foreign Affairs Committee, Alexei Chepa, warned that the hostile Finnish actions could ultimately trigger retaliation. Finland is a new NATO member. Today, many leaders are trying to curry favor as prominently as possible by declaring such positions, Chepa stated. And here's the thing. And good question, Kevin. You asked, where does NATO get their orders from? Good question. Largely, at least on the surface, the United States. But that's on the surface. The United States gets orders too, and follows orders too. And while I don't know the exact chain, I have a very big suspicion as to what country, which area, that the United States gets its orders from. I just don't know who. I don't think any of us do. But I firmly believe that it's from the UK. I think it's from Britain, to be exact. And I think it goes above, like the Koch brothers and all of that crowd. I believe they go above that, and I don't think we'll know the names of them. And that's also backed up biblically, but I've often pondered where Israel fits in there, because Israel does fit in there. I think for a long time we were getting all our marching orders from Israel, but I think since, and I couldn't tell you when, since some point in time, I think they're coming more direct from whoever it is that is at the top of that pyramid. So, yeah, this is not good though. And I don't know if they expect, I mean, they're a new member of NATO. I don't know if they expect that if they do something stupid and wind up getting hit, if they expect NATO to back them up, considering they're a brand new member. And what's that look like? Is that what will indeed happen? I don't know. I don't know, and it's not good. It's not a good situation to be in, that's for sure. Sheesh. Somebody's over there sawing logs like crazy. Definitely not a good position, though. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what they'll do. Hang on, let me have another sip. You damn right about that, Kevin. Damn right about that. Now, the biggest damn tea party anybody's ever seen. Germany has prepared Russia-NATO conflict scenario, says Bild. So, even though Germany hasn't thrown their hat in this recent ring of whatever you want to call it, they're certainly getting ready, and they have been. This isn't something that's new. It's continuing. The German government has prepared a model for a potential Russian attack on NATO. Bild has claimed, according to the tabloid, authorities in Berlin have described 4 distinct phases culminating in potential nuclear strikes on NATO member states. In an article on Wednesday, Bild claimed to have obtained a 13-page risk analysis for civil defense supposedly prepared for the German parliament. Germany would be among the top targets in the event of a Russian attack on NATO, according to the newspaper, with officials allegedly deeming such a risk plausible. The first phase of a strike by Moscow would purportedly involve a disinformation campaign aimed at dividing the German population and destabilizing society. In addition, Russia would supposedly conduct cyber attacks on the critical infrastructure. According to the Bild, the Kremlin would then deploy troops to the border with NATO, a move mirrored by the U.S.-led military bloc. Cyber attacks and sabotage on German soil would take place in parallel to this, with satellites also targeted, it claimed. Phase 3 would entail selective attacks with conventional weapons and non-conventional means, also on targets of the territory of Germany, the media outlet alleged. The peak of the hypothetical Russian invasion would see hostilities on land, at sea, as well as in the air on German territory, with the conflict taking on a global scale, it was predicted. The article further alleged that the German government has not ruled out the use of chemical and nuclear weapons by Russia. The claims follow a Bild report last month in which it described a month-by-month outline of a possible path to conflict between NATO and Russia, alleging that Moscow could launch an open attack in 2025. Commenting on the report at the time, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov stated that Bild doesn't shy away from publishing various hoaxes. In recent months, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has on several occasions predicted that Russia could attack NATO in 5 to 8 years' time. In January, Swedish Foreign Minister Tobias Billström called on his compatriots to prepare for a potential military confrontation between NATO and Russia. Elsewhere, UK Defense Secretary Grant Shapps has also predicted a global conflict between the West and Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea within 5 years. Russian President Vladimir Putin insisted in December that Moscow has no interest geopolitically, economically, or militarily in waging war against NATO. And I don't think he does. I really don't think he does. Maybe I'm just foolish. Maybe I'm naive, but I don't think so. I think he's being goaded into it. UK directly involved in Ukraine conflict, says Kremlin. This year it says Britain's direct military involvement in Ukraine was never a secret, but one of the country's establishment media outlets has now admitted it's outright. Russian President Vladimir Putin's press secretary, Dmitry Peskov, said on Thursday. The outlet, the outlet RTVI asked Peskov to comment a report from the Times which claimed that Admiral Tony Radakin, the head of the UK Armed Forces, has helped make battle plans for Ukraine. In general, it's no secret that British really provide different forms of support to Ukraine, people on the ground and intelligence and so on and so forth, Peskov said. That is, they are actually directly involved in this conflict. According to the British outlet, citing a Ukrainian military source, Radakin is understood to have helped the Ukrainians with the strategy to destroy Russian ships and open up the Black Sea, and seen as invaluable in coordinating support from other senior chiefs in NATO. The admiral also reportedly visited Kiev and met with President Vladimir Zelensky to discuss Ukraine's strategy and the ways in which the West could help. The Kremlin doesn't have specific information related to Radakin, but probably our military knows about this, Peskov said. Radakin, 58, was due to retire in November after 3 years as chief of the defense staff, but will stay on the job for another year at Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's request, the Times reported. One source told the outlet that the British government considered it important to retain continuity ahead of the upcoming general election. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz this week inadvertently confirmed the presence of UK troops on the ground in Ukraine, noting that British fire control operators were directing Storm Shadow cruise missiles. A British lawmaker subsequently denounced Scholz' comments as flagrant abuse of intelligence that put UK personnel in danger and gave Russia a pretext to escalate. So now wait a minute. It's okay that they lie and do what they want and that not be called out as a pretext to escalate. I don't get this different set of rules. Hang on. I don't know, some people might think, but it's Russia. So? Look, if we expect to be treated fairly, we should respect others fairly. I don't play along with this whole one person victimizes another person game and then claims to be the victim themselves. I don't play that. There is far too much of that happening in our world today and in our society, in our government. No. We have to put a stop to it. Whether it be in our homes, whether it be on the street, or whether it be in our government. We have to put a stop to it. This whole opportunism thing is not working out for anybody, and it will continue to run this nation and the world into the ground. Just the way it is. And we are leading up to where we're going to talk a little bit about nukes. I'm actually rolling through these quicker than I thought I would, so it is what it is. I'm going to enjoy another drink of coffee, though. And unplug my tablet. Alright, Pentagon warns of direct Russia-NATO clash. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has warned Eastern NATO members to prepare to fight Russia, claiming that Moscow will not stop after defeating Kiev's forces. Addressing the U.S. House Armed Services Committee hearing on Thursday, Austin once again urged lawmakers to approve additional funding for Kiev's war effort, painting a grim picture for NATO allies otherwise. If you are a Baltic state, you are really worried about whether you are next. And frankly, if Ukraine falls, I really believe that NATO will be in a fight with Russia, the U.S. defense chief said. So wait, we need to just go out and start attacking them because of how you're in fear? That doesn't seem right. I'm reading. It's hard for me to stat text. Right. I agree. Let me put up both of those. The Jesuits folks seem to forget about in the background when Christ shed his blood for our sorry asses. You couldn't be any more correct. Could not be any more correct. Let's see. Austin went on to claim that other autocrats around the world will look at this and will be encouraged by the fact that this happened and that we failed to support a democracy. You know, talking about China and North Korea. Washington quickly became Kiev's top backer after Russia launched its military operation in 2022, but the $45 billion war chest has been expended and U.S. assistance all but ground to a halt after Ukraine's summer counteroffensive failed to make any significant gains. President Vladimir Zelensky reportedly warned last week that his country would surely lose the war without continued U.S. support, as a new $60 billion aid package for Kiev faces gridlock in Congress amid Republican opposition. U.S. military is considering whether to draw on its last remaining $4 billion allocated for Ukraine, even with no assurances the money will be replaced by lawmakers amid fierce debate over renewed aid, multiple officials told CNN. Russia has repeatedly denounced Western's arms shipments to Ukraine, warning that they will only prolong the conflict and make the West a direct participant in the hostilities, and stating that all Western-supplied arms would burn on the battlefield. So far, they have. It's crazy. I can't believe I've almost went through that whole cup of coffee. Man. I normally don't read, like, the entirety of the articles, especially when there's so many, but I don't want to leave stuff out with this. This is reaching a level where we really better start paying close attention. I do need nicotine. Oh, and Blue needs her belly scratched. And I just got in trouble because I said it and not did it. Oh, and probably I'm partly on the shit list because her pillow is not up on the futon. I'll have to remedy that as soon as she moves her big fat head off. Let's see. Risk of Russian tactical nuclear strike higher than thought, Financial Times claims. Says here, Russia's threshold for using shorter-range tactical nuclear weapons may be lower than defense experts in the West believe, the Financial Times has claimed, citing purported Russian military documents. The materials, which were allegedly presentations for Russian naval officers, discussed operating principles for the use of nuclear weapons, the FT reported. They were supposedly produced between 2008 and 2014 and shared with the British outlet by Western sources. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told the newspaper that Russia strongly doubts the authenticity of the documents. Moscow's military doctrine allows for the deployment of nuclear weapons in retaliation to a first strike against it or its allies, or in situations where Russian statehood is threatened. Senior officials, including President Vladimir Putin, have drawn attention to the country's nuclear arsenal amid the Ukraine conflict. The U.S. and its allies have accused the Russian leader of nuclear blackmail, although Moscow has rejected that allegation. Last June, Putin said Russia had no need to use tactical nuclear weapons, insisting they are for deterrence. He also voiced opposition to any lowering of the nuclear threshold. Russia has a larger stockpile than NATO nations, which is why they are advocating a reduction, the president argued. Screw them, Putin said. The weapons are our competitive advantage. Did he really say screw them? The criteria for the use of nuclear weapons in the documents reviewed by the FT included losses by Russian forces that would irrevocably, you say it, lead to their failure to stop major enemy aggression and a critical situation for the state security of Russia. The destruction of 20% of Russia's strategic missile submarines, 30% of nuclear-powered attack submarines, or a simultaneous hit on main and reserve coastal command centers were cited as specific examples. Let's see. Jack Watling, a senior research fellow for land warfare at the Royal United Services Institute, told the FT that the presentations were meant for relatively low-ranking military personnel. At this level, the requirement is for units to maintain, over the course of a conflict, the credible option for policymakers to employ nuclear weapons, he stated. This would be a political decision. Other documents in the trove described exercises preparing Russian armed forces for a possible Chinese invasion. The FT claimed that they indicate a deeply harbored mistrust of Beijing's intentions among members of the Russian military elite. The Russian and Chinese governments have rejected that assertion, telling the FT that bilateral relations are based on mutual trust and shared interest and are formalized in numerous treaties. The supposed decade-old scenarios for military drills should not be read as indications of policy, according to Michael Kaufman, a senior fellow at Carnegie. Such documents are often contrived, designed to test the force and set up the exercise, he explained to the FT. They're not necessarily reflective of what is assessed as the likeliest or most realistic threat. And I have a suspicion that the China thing was thrown in there as propaganda to make China mistrust Russia so they'd be less likely to back them. That's just my guess. Although Putin may not fully trust China, I know I wouldn't, and Putin's not naive. I don't think I would. I would think of it at any help or involvement from China would just be to take out all the other big ones, and then China's the country I don't trust. That's the nation that I do not trust. Okay, and the last article I have pulled up. West flirting with nuclear war, says Putin. Well, what you thinking about India, Kevin? Western officials indulging in escalatory rhetoric should realize that they are effectively invoking the specter of an all-out nuclear war, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned in a speech to legislators in Moscow on Thursday. He also once again accused the West of instigating the Ukraine conflict. Putin addressed the topic in the opening minutes of his annual State of the Nation speech, a key event in which the president declares his plans and priorities in a televised address to both houses of the Federal Assembly of Russia, the national legislature. President Putin insisted that recent claims by Western officials that Moscow is planning to attack NATO are nonsense. At the same time, those same nations are selecting targets to conduct strikes on our territory, the Russian head of state claimed, adding that there is now talk of deploying NATO military contingents to Ukraine. You trust India over China? Yeah, I do too. I would agree with that. Absolutely. Putin reminded would-be aggressors that all previous attempts to conquer Russia have ended in failure, warning that now the consequences for potential invaders would be far more tragic. He pointed out that Russia has a massive nuclear arsenal which is in a state of complete readiness for guaranteed deployment. The Russian president suggested that Western politicians making those escalatory remarks have already forgotten what war is. Unlike Russians, who have faced difficult trials in recent decades, Westerners apparently think that these are just some cartoons, President Putin opined. His remarks came after his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron toyed with the idea of potential ground deployment of Western militaries to Ukraine while talking to reporters on Monday, saying in terms of dynamics we cannot exclude anything. Yeah, well, and Pakistan I think is kind of like a wild card, almost like North Korea is, really. Yeah, pretty much everywhere, I'm Elmer Fudd now. Pretty much everywhere around the UAE is easily bought, it would seem. Let's see. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in turn declared that there will be no ground troops, no soldiers on Ukrainian soil who are sent there by European or NATO countries in the future. The leaders of Poland and the Czech Republic, Sweden and Finland also chimed in with similar assurances. Commenting on Macron's remark, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov warned that such a development would mean that we have to talk not about the probability, but rather the inevitability, of an all-out military confrontation between NATO and Russia. When I talk that much that fast, yeah, some words just are not going to come out right. Oh, man. So anyway, it's certainly something to keep your eye on. Nothing to go running around your house screaming in fear. But definitely keep your eye on it and, act accordingly. I don't necessarily see something stupid happening in the immediate, but there is certainly an escalation that's building. And what's sad is a lot of the escalation is being done by other countries. What blows my mind is when nations like Estonia speak up and chime in with their 4,500 troops. Oh yeah, well, we back sending troops on the ground. Yeah, your 4,500 troops and the rest United States troops? That how that works? 'Cause that don't sound like a good deal to me. Let's see. Oh, really? Friday saying they're old allies with Russia, meaning India. Yeah, I know. Putin said, screw that. I know that was a classic. But yeah, you bring up a good point. They are old allies. So I don't think that they've ever really had any major issues that I'm aware of. I'm not super good on history, especially international history, but yeah. And they've had, throw that up there too, they've had some rather recent tussles with China, I believe, right? India has, if I'm not mistaken. And I know that they've had recent tussles with Pakistan as well. So I don't know where Mongolia fits in all that, to be honest. But I know it wouldn't take much for that region to be just as unstable as the Middle East. So, wouldn't take much. Yep. They've even had a few live fire events on that border in a couple of places. So we'll see. You know, what happens if this does go big, I think if it does go big, I honestly do think that India would side with Russia and, in turn, China in that situation. So that's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong. There comes a point to where the money's not worth it, and I think when it comes to that point, India will ignore what the United States has to offer. So at that point, there's several countries that did a back and forth. Look at Turkey. Look at Syria. They've been back and forthing for a long time now. And I think now that things are getting a little more tense, they are certainly siding more with Russia. So you're right, it is about resources. And that includes the war resources. And, United States couldn't do a whole hell of a lot for India if a global conflict broke out. So anyway, I got some headlines, and I figure we'll run through those. And I don't know, if you want to run around outside and scream, I mean, that's on you, but your neighbors may not be appreciative. I know my neighbors wouldn't be. There again, they'd probably go, that damn Mike. Doot, 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 doot. I've been getting notifications like, jeez, yo. Okay, nothing. Will you stop? Congress passed a stopgap funding bill, so you know that. Sheesh, Ming. Quit. I'm making sure that nothing's that important, so I told you about the Congress thing. A surge in Wendy's complaints exposes the limits to where, when, and for what U.S. consumers will trade more cash for convenience. That's important news you need to know. Yep, I would agree. Yeah, everything. I don't even know where Africa fits in at this point, because it's kind of all over the dartboard, really. You got different parts of Africa that I think would be a little closer to the United States, and then other parts would be closer to China or Russia. I think it would light up like a Christmas tree, to be honest. Africa would. Alright, let me run through these headlines. And it says, Pentagon preparing its last $4 billion for Ukraine, says CNN. I would like to think last $4 billion, but I don't think that's really accurate. Supreme Court to review Trump's immunity. Maybe we'll ask Bill Gates. France labels Russia a direct threat. U.S. threatens Turkish businesses over Russia trade. German households heavily burdened by energy costs, says report. What? Gosh, I'm getting there. Man, tough crowd in here. Skulls slammed for revealing UK troop presence in Ukraine. BRICS overtaking G7 in economic might, says Putin. West wants to destroy Russia, says Putin. Russia can enter world's top 4 economies, says Putin. A lot of these statements by Putin. Putin had a big address thing earlier. Russia accuses U.S. of lying about nukes in space. Nukes in space! Well, I need the echo, but... Russia comments on space station leak. Might want to plug that hole, man. Hypersonic weapons promised 6 years ago are now in service, says Putin. Germany, I covered that one. West divided over seizing Russian assets, says Bloomberg. Keep money in Russia, Putin says. West destroying its own financial system, says Putin. Israel accuses Moscow of siding with forces of destabilization. Really? It's not us. Look over there at Russia. A NATO member backs boots on the ground in Ukraine. May have read that one, I'm not sure. Poland and Ukraine in talks on border closure, says Warsaw. Russian economy becoming more sustainable, says Putin. Ukrainian MP says blocking Telegram would be logical. Yeah, so would like blowing up the gas line, pumping gas. It makes no sense to me. Ukraine is at war with Russia. Why in the hell is there an active gas pipeline going through Ukraine? Now, I'm not saying that's what they need to do, but I have to ask the question, why is that still pumping gas? Because if it were my country and I was invaded by another country and they had a gas line running through my country, it would be a matter of they had a gas line running through my country. So I don't get that. A Russian outlet's editor detained and fined. Putin names Russia's true elite. UK, I covered that one. U.S. sanctioned country asks UN for help to feed children. Russia and America could be great trade partners. They could. I don't understand why all the nonsense. I don't. Let's see. Macron I covered that. And that. Police officer and civil process server killed in shooting at Missouri home. 2 other officers hurt. And I heard there could be a 3rd officer that's injured. From a news thing earlier. Because I was watching it live for a while. So. And let's see. And I covered that one. Anyway. That's it. That is the news. I'm going to boogie on out of here. I might paint a little bit more before I go to sleep. Because, man, I want to have that file done early tomorrow so I can go on to a different file. Because I'm tired of looking at that file. So, it looks really, really cool, though. Really, really cool. Anyway, I am going to get out of here. I shall see you all Sunday unless something stupid breaks out. Then I may see you before then. But let's hope not. Anyway, I hope you all have a good weekend. Have a good night. I appreciate you coming. Hope to see you Sunday night. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.